Okay, hello and welcome. Our welcome screen went past its welcome. Welcome everyone to the progress showcase stream of Tranzfuser 2022. My name is Bartek and I'll be your host for today. I'll be speaking to 7 teams who are participating in this year's Tranzfuser. They are all seeking to get funding. They are all putting together their efforts to make a company and make their dreams come true, which is like making games, and making a living out of it, which is great. So we'll have 7 teams, and the teams I'll be speaking to today, you can check this out, by the way, on the Transfuser website, which can be found through the panels below. If you want to find out more. So I'll be first speaking to First Horizon. I'll be just setting up with Ryan, the team representative. So going to a short break before we actually begin so I can set up. So I'll be speaking to team First Horizon, then we'll have Head Empty Studios, we'll have Idiom Creations, Skyline Studios, Schmoving Studios, Team Dink, and last but not least, we'll have Joe Bite. So we'll finish around 5, and each team will have around 15 minutes. We'll be chatting about their games. We'll have some gameplay footage. Occasionally, we'll have some screenshots for you as well. So it will be great to have some insights into how these teams are getting on. How they are tackling all the struggles they might face. As a up and coming studio. So yeah, I think without further ado, I will go into a quick short break. I'll set things up with Ryan and we'll get started as soon as we are ready. Speak to you guys soon, and also throughout the stream, as you can see below me right here, apart from my name, if you type exclamation mark and team name, you'll actually get a Twitter handle of the team. So if there is a game you like or a team you like and you really want to follow them, see how they are getting on in the future, make sure to type it. There might be a bit of a cooldown on it in chat, but it should be all good. Okay, I'll be back with you guys very, very shortly. Don't go anywhere. If you have to, go quickly grab a drink, and I'll be back with you in just a second with a guest. Right,
Good.
here we go. Hello and welcome. So first, I have with me from Team First Horizon, I have Ryan. Ryan, would you like to introduce yourself and then give a few words about your team, who you guys are all about?
Yeah, so I'm Ryan. I'm the team leader of First Horizon. There's a team of 4 of us, and most of us are in our 30s, actually. So that's an interesting fact. We're old, so sorry about that. But yeah, I've got a youngster as well. He's 21. And we're making a survival horror game, which is called The Nutcracker.
Nice. Sounds good. Okay. Right. So do you have how did you get started with your game? Because for people that don't know, we'll go into gameplay soon. But your game is like a horror, but not too intense, but it's still a
Yeah,
horror
yeah.
game. Did you guys have like a liking for horror games as a group, as a collective to go into making the Nutcracker, or how did it start, you know?
It was actually the opposite of that. We didn't
Okay.
want to make a game that everyone was really passionate about. We were quite conscious of the fact that it was like it could turn into a passion project. So we almost like took business first. We kind of seen what was popular in the market, like the likes of Poppy's Playtime, Five Nights at Freddy's, etc. That type
Yeah.
of tone we're going for. So it was more of how can we sell units type of decision rather than we all love this game type. Even though we do play these games, also, I think it's a challenge to do something that you're not familiar with as well.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what led us down that.
Okay. So do you want to give us a few words about your project, like a top
Mm.
down? What is it? Give
What
us
is the
a
game? So
Yeah, give us a
yeah,
quick elevator pitch.
okay. So the game is about a vlogger who notices some disappearances through some online videos they've seen. So they've seen these videos where like kids and people are getting like taken or captured within a mall area.
Mhm.
So your job is to go within the mall and to investigate what's going on. Once you're there, you find out it's obviously the Nutcracker guy, and you are trying to escape from him and find the clues whilst you're there. That's kind of the short story of it, if you like.
Okay, sounds great. So why did you decide to like sort of go indie or like this funding route over, I don't know, joining up to a studio that maybe is doing something similar? Like what made you want to pursue this over other opportunities?
Was in what made us want to become a studio? Is that what you're saying?
Pretty much, yes, exactly.
Well, Tranzfuser is kind of like it was always there in the background. But for university, like especially our university, it's pushed kind of early doors, Tranzfuser is always the main goal, and because that university's never had
Nice.
like a team funded, it was almost like a personal challenge to me. Like
I see.
I want to get the funding, I want to win this. I'm treating it like a competition, right? So maybe the other teams don't want to hear that, but that's what I'm treating, right? But yeah, beyond that, making your own studio and having your own business is definitely what we all want to do, right?
Hmm.
I think it's exciting. I like the challenge of it because I've got business experience elsewhere. So
Hmm.
taking it to the games industry is it's a very big challenge. Actually, I think it's definitely difficult to crack.
Yeah.
But I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the challenge. So that's good.
Good. Okay, you mentioned university and how
Mm,
it's the thing people go for, which I find quite cool.
yeah,
Also, you mentioned competition. I personally feel like there is a form of healthy competition where
yeah, yeah.
you can compete with people, but you can also have each other's back at the same time.
Absolutely,
I
yeah,
I
absolutely.
think, yeah,
We've met some
uh,
great people as well. Especially when we went to Dundee to meet a few weeks ago, and
it was
getting to meet
great.
the people is getting yeah, it was a good time. Getting to meet the people and practice our pitches. It was really good actually, and we met some really good people. So we won't be too disappointed if we don't win, but obviously we want to, which
So
because there are some cool guys in there. So if they win, good for them, right? So,
good for them, but also would be
yeah,
great
yeah,
for you.
absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
So how did the team come together? How did the
Mm.
team form? Why is it first Horizon, not the second Horizon? What
Oh
happened?
well,
How did you get
do you want to know
together?
the team name, right? The team name is because it was like a combination of two second year groups. Because there was a team of three in the second year were called Horizon Games, and I was part of that. And we made like
Hmm.
this little pirate game. And there was another team called First Fall, and we couldn't decide for it as a name, so we just like took one word off one and one word off the other. So that's it's not really an interesting story, but that is the story. I can't make
Merge
things
it,
up. So that's
compromise, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you came together through university.
Yeah, yeah. So I think the team formed because we're all of a certain age, barring one, and we had a similar work ethic as well, right? Because what I was noticing,
Nice.
a lot of the younger people who were put with teams throughout university didn't really do as much work, and I'm not
Hmm.
generalizing. That's just what happened in our university. Um, so we all had a similar work ethic. I knew the guys who I was working with were going to work hard, and that was the most important thing, right? Um, post like university, I wanted to be people who just worked hard.
Good. Cool. Okay, I'll take us into the gameplay now so we can have a
Sure.
peek at that. We'll still be able to do some commentary over it. So uh, I'll have some questions for you about the project as the gameplay is running, if you don't mind.
Sure. No problem.
Okay, gameplay is up. So, a bit about
Yeah.
your game. Now that we have some visuals, maybe you can tell
Yeah.
us some stuff about the art direction. Why did you go this way? Why is it not, for
Uh,
example, cell shaded? It's still realistic, but it's not pushing to that
yeah.
extreme.
It was kind of like a mixture. We wanted initially to go for something more like Fortnite style, but then we realized that probably wouldn't be that scary. So we settled in the middle, really, between that Fortnite cartoon style and something a bit more realistic. So
Hmm.
that's kind of the way it looks like that. And also, it was because I think it was easy to model. We got a lot of assets in there. A lot of these stores are filled with assets, and a lot of time was spent modeling. It's
Yeah,
also for ease. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's looking great. It was definitely,
Mm.
to me, your project seems like plenty has been done, and especially in terms of environment and creating the sort
Yeah.
of the right mood, the right setting, which is extremely important for the type of game you are creating. I feel.
It wasn't always like this, by the way, because like when we first started Tranzfuser, we had to scrap a lot, and that's we literally just had an environment, and we built upon that, through the process. It's been
Tell
a difficult process.
tell us about it. Yeah, tell us about it. I was just about to ask about
Yeah,
like the most challenging aspect of it. So where did
yeah.
the Nutcracker start? What was it?
The most challenging aspect of this is that we had a lot of performance issues. Our team member left just before we started as well.
Oh
So
wow, okay,
we were initially a five, and that was like our main programmer. So
that's a
had
big
to
hit.
rejig the roles, and we're learning on the job, right? So because the university we come from is quite a generalist one, we did have some experience in it,
Hmm.
but it was more like changing the roles. We had to all the existing like blueprints and code in there had to be scrapped completely because the guy who was working on it wasn't there anymore, so we didn't know what he did really. So it was pretty much built from the ground up again. That took quite a while. But since then, we everything we see now in the gameplay has been added by ourselves, so I feel like we've done a pretty good job so far.
That's great, perfect. Um, so what would you say is the most fun feature in the project currently after all the hard work you've done? Was the like
I look
even
forward to the
even as
events.
a game dev, like what do
Yeah,
you spend your time doing the most when you are testing a feature?
yeah. Oh, in terms of the game, I was going to talk about the events because that's actually one of the motivating factors into for putting in the hours.
We
We're
can talk
putting in
about it as well, yeah.
Yeah, we're putting in a lot of hours. Like personally, I'm putting probably 70+ hours a week, and the enjoyment you get from that is how other people receive it. I think as well. If once you take a product to someone, they see it and they like it. We've got other people who say, "Oh, it's really cool," and that's kind of a that's my motivation for carrying on. But certainly because we're not that experienced in certain areas, like in terms of programming stuff.
Mhm.
Every hurdle we overcome, like even to do jump scares and this, like once we get to that point, and it's you can be quite proud of that in a way. It's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Did you have any game-breaking bugs or any like really hilarious bugs happening throughout the
We got plenty.
development?
It wasn't that hilarious because I mean, fixing them's not very fun or funny, right? But yeah, there's been quite a few through the process. Sometimes it feels like you're taking 2 steps forward and 5 steps back.
Hmm.
So you think, oh, I've done this really cool thing, and then you realize, oh, it's affected something else, and I've got to go back and fix it. So but I think that's game dev in general, isn't it? So
I was about to say,
yeah,
usually when you add a single feature, you need to
yeah,
count it in as 10 another bugs that are coming through, and
yeah,
that
yeah.
feature might be breaking another thing that was added
Yeah.
before it. So
So you have all these
it'd be
plans,
like
and
that.
you plan for a few weeks ahead, and you're like, oh, I'm going to implement this, and then actually, it probably takes a bit longer because it's broken something else. So yeah, I totally get that. It's been challenging.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, how do you as a team then get together to sort of tackle it? Did you explore like any methods that you realize, oh, what works for us is maybe daily meetings? Do you have like a thing that works for you guys to tackle it?
So in terms of organisation of the team, we have a weekly meeting and we're pretty much talking to each other every single day. We have a dedicated Discord and we've got a Trello board as well. So anything gets reported on there and it's acted upon immediately. We don't go beyond that. So what we used to do, we used to like report bugs on there and like something would be broken. We'll be like, oh, we'll move on to something else and put it on the back burner. But now it's like, no, we need to fix this right now because we've got all these deadlines to meet, etc.
Hmm.
So I think that's one way in how the Tranzfuser's helped because of the deadlines, it's kind of forces into a path which we may not have chose before. So yeah, it's been a helpful process. Hard work, but helpful. Yeah.
I see. So far, of course, we will be seeing your game at EGX, which I'll be talking more about later on. How are
Yeah.
you looking to expand your project? What's like a thing that people can look forward to in your game in the future of the
Um,
project?
it's very much more moments like we've seen before, like more jump scare. We want more tension. We want more atmosphere
Hmm.
at the minute. I don't know if you can hear the sound on there, or anything, but a
The
lot of
sound is
sound
on,
needs
yeah, yeah.
added.
I had to even
Yeah,
tune it. It was going too strong.
yeah. There's sound is a big issue. We want to really heighten the atmosphere. We don't want any more than we do want more, but at EGX we expect about 15 minutes worth of gameplay, but we want
Hmm.
it to be really high quality gameplay.
Yeah.
So all these stores eventually that you see around will have some kind of gameplay element too, which we'll go show you now in the laser tag. Um, we really want to polish what we do have, and there's also I don't think it's in this video, but there's not just the mall either. There's an underground system, like it's a secret system which you have to unlock, and you have to get access to it through these items that you obtain once you
Mhm.
um, get them. So we'll probably be expanding the bottom there, probably teasing a bit for the future. There's already a lot of teasers in there at the minute. Actually, like there's a lot of references within like some of the arcade machines, some things on the wall. We like built a whole town around it. Not built it in engine, but like mentally we wrote it down. So there's a lot of like narrative to put into it. So
Mhm.
it's about how we portray that narrative and how we come across because we know fans of these type of games really like the lore and the narrative around it. So we're really focusing on that for 3GX.
Yeah. So why did you actually go with the Nutcracker theme? I'm not sure you mentioned.
Basically, it was kind of like a mascot which had not been done before. We noticed that
Okay.
these mascot horror games are quite popular, and
Yeah.
also I remember as a kid, looking at this Nutcracker. I know now that he cracks nuts and stuff, but at the time I was like, what is this creepy little thing? It's almost like the same thing as like, do you know what you get with a clown, like that type of
Yeah.
fear you get with a clown that kids get with it. I figured it would kind of fit quite well for that. So, and also as well to capitalize on things like Christmas, we plan on releasing a Christmas demo. So the whole mall will be kitted out in Christmas stuff. So it was kind of a tactical move more than anything.
It's a
Yeah.
big one, yeah. I personally,
Mm,
I need to tell you, Ryan, that for me, I
mm.
think the Nutcracker theme is quite. It's a nice gameplay hook. Personally, like a theme wise.
Well, thank you.
So as you said, I think nailing that atmosphere, to make it, you know,
Yeah,
enhance the gameplay through like really subtle, whether it's audio
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
or tuning the how the light works. Yeah, it would be great to see how you get on with that.
There's
Let's talk.
also we
Yep.
also chose the Nutcracker as well because we got like we were trying to introduce things with the drums as well. Like the animation's not in the minute, but like the whole drumming thing would be like a notification that he's around you as well. So we think that might enhance the atmosphere as well. So if you're in getting a certain radius, he starts drumming. We have got like the animation for that. It's just not in this video. So hopefully by EGX that'll be there as well. So
Nice, nice, great to hear. I
cool.
mean, yeah. Also, I want to let everyone know watching the stream the teams. This is a progress showcase, right? So Ryan and all the other teams, everyone is showcasing where the teams are. At EGX will be sort of like the cherry on top, you know. So you'll get to see how far teams can go. I want to kind of switch away from the game. I'll leave the gameplay on.
Sure.
We can let it loop, but I want to talk
Yeah,
about
it's
the
on.
studio itself, right?
Yeah.
Are you guys looking for a publisher? How are you looking to expand as a company now, right? What's the plan?
It's an option, but I think we prefer to go the self-published route. I
Mhm,
mean, if I'm being honest with you, basically based on the type of game it is, we don't know if a publisher would take a risk of it because the whole idea of like horror and it's aimed at younger audiences a bit. I assume that some publisher might think that's quite risque. Um, self-published is probably the route, but we're open to it though. We are going to approach people who do similar type of games and say, are you interested, etc.
mhm.
So that's kind of up in the air right now.
Do you have like any goals for EGX itself? Any
Not beyond
milestones
what
you wanna meet?
not beyond what I said. I really want just like a polished, but like pretty much the gameplay that we've got now, but a really more polished product, a lot jump scares in there. We want an objective system as well, but at the minute it's quite poor. It's like current objective, and you got this, but we want something a bit more structured in there,
Hmm.
which guides the player a bit more because well, I think we got an event coming over the weekend. We got Comic Con, and that will give us a good idea of what people think of it and how we can guide the player a bit more. So we'll be using that as like a feedback session. And
Yeah.
that's on Sunday in Wrexham if anyone's going to be around.
Good luck.
No,
Best of luck to you.
right? Yeah,
Yeah, if anyone is there, check out the Nutcracker in the First
sure.
Horizon.
We got prizes. Come now. Okay.
Nice, nice. I had a really, I had a question, like a personal game dev question I wanted to ask, but
Sure.
it left my brain.
Oh,
It's
okay.
off.
No
It's off.
problem. I would have answered
I don't know.
it.
It's back. Okay, because you mentioned objectives. I was
Yeah.
interested how you make the game interesting, where the player wants to continue playing
Yeah.
with the objectives, so they are not too repetitive. Because like
At the
with this
minute,
sort of
I know what you
games,
mean.
it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
take this, find three keys, you find them, you open the
Yeah.
door, you find more keys, or like take this there. Um, how do you tackle that to kind of innovate,
I
perhaps?
think the answer to that is like because at the minute the character's quite it's got no abilities. You run around. You don't really do much. But
Mhm.
if we can find a way of messing with the Nutcracker in a way, like put traps down. We already had something like that would we had a can which you threw at him and he'd go to the can. So we're working on that to try and bring some replayability. Um, also, yeah. So like the can would act. We're going to change the can by the way. It's not going to be a can. I was thinking more of a ball. Chuck the ball around, then he goes and chases it. So then it'd be like something like a trapdoor where you could lead him into it. I think that adds
Mhm.
replayability if you're messing with him. That's what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say.
Have you considered the way you say it? Like, have you considered multiplayer,
We
where the
did, but we figured
Nutcracker is a
it
controllable
would.
unit?
We definitely considered that, but maybe down the line that's something we'd like to add because these type of games, I think it would lend itself well to it. If you could be the Nutcracker, I think it'd be quite cool. But no plans at the minute. Maybe next year. Right?
Yeah, that's a big in scope. Any game being turned into multiplayer definitely increases scope
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
by
and
quite a
that's
bit.
one thing. Well, that's one thing we're quite mindful of is the scope of the project. Especially for the EGX period, we had to cut a lot out already. Like I said, this mechanic with the cannon, the throwing mechanic where you distract him, that was already in there, but we've had to make some adjustments, and it's not back in at the minute. So that's a scope issue again. Yeah,
I see, but that's really
yeah,
smart, right? Because you're
yeah.
adapting on the go, kinda
Yeah,
saying
it's about
like,
giving
okay,
players
this is
like
great, but do we really need it?
yeah, it's about when we get to the end goal of the demo of EGX, we want players to have the most bang for their buck. And if something's not working right, it doesn't feel very good, we may as well just scrap it for now and then
Yeah.
see what happens beyond that time. Yeah.
So what's the core feeling you want a player to leave the stand at EGX? How do you want them to feel apart from slightly terrified of the Nutcracker and Christmas?
I want to feel excited. It's not all doom and gloom. I know it's a horror game, but there are some good fun elements to it as well. Especially if you look at the laser tag and the general theme of it is not too scary.
Mhm.
Um, So introducing more things to do with the narrative to try and hook them in. I think that's what we can say to that.
Yeah, I think the not too scary can be subjective. I don't play too many horror games.
Yeah.
I
Well, are you
think
scared by it? I mean, it's just I don't know.
I think what personally gets me as a player, which maybe might be a tip for you, is actually the atmosphere, which you mentioned earlier.
Yeah,
Creating the
yeah,
right
that's
atmosphere is
definitely.
more valuable than when everything is out in the open.
Yeah,
I think from players' perspective, especially if they play a lot of games, they might start seeing it as a game and looking at it maybe a bit more competitive. You know how to win
yeah,
rather than being immersed in that. Oh, there is a creepy tall guy in
yeah.
this shopping
We
center.
want
You
the
know,
feeling that he could jump out at you at any second. We are working on that. There is going to be a lot more things added by EGX. So yeah, it's definitely something. That's probably the core thing we're working on actually. So
perfect,
hopefully,
perfect.
when you see us in EGX, it'll be a lot better than what it is. So
Yeah, I'll be seeing you guys and all the other teams.
okay,
I look forward to it. I'm really
yeah,
excited.
me too, me too,
I'm
me
excited
too.
for your project. It's looking great. Is there
Thank
anything
you.
else about the project you want to share with us before we wrap up?
No, I think you pretty much covered everything I wanted to talk about. So it's been fun though. I've enjoyed speaking to you. It's been fun. It's good.
Okay, let me switch to the interview scene. Okay, do you have any
Okay.
shout outs to your team? Any fans, family,
Any
friends?
fans? Well, we got a super fan called Fairy King who's been like tracking us since the beginning. So I'm gonna give a shout out to them. Okay, and also like my family are watching downstairs. That's why I'm a bit nervous. So
Oh, don't
shout
be
out
nervous.
family. All right, all right. They're
Okay, right.
making me nervous. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, right. Thank you so much, Ryan. It was great
Thank
speaking with
you.
you. Best of luck with
You too. Yeah.
First Horizon as well, and the Nutcracker. Best of luck
All right.
with both.
We'll see you in EGX then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll see you there. It was great speaking with you, and we'll go to a short break, and I'll be back. Next up, we have Daniel from Head Empty Studios. So we'll be back around 3 ish. Talk to you guys then.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay, hi guys. Hello and welcome. I hope you didn't have to wait too long. Um, we are back. I have with myself a member of Hair Empty Studios. Daniel, say hello. Introduce
Hello.
yourself and your team.
So I'm Daniel. Team's Head Empty Studios. We're making a badminton 2.5D fighting game. And yeah, we're a team of 4, and we're having a lot of fun with it.
Okay, perfect, cool. Flawless introduction. So, before we jump into your game and then your up and coming studio in more detail, can you maybe tell us a bit about your project? Maybe why you decided to pursue this kind of genre without any visuals, just to give a teaser to the viewers, you know?
Okay, so it began, as you'd know, probably as a university project. We kind of knew we were going to make a fighting game because we all really like fighting games, but we wanted something a little bit different.
Hmm.
And so we were kind of inspired at the time by more platformy genres like what Lethal League does.
Yeah.
So we want to sort of pursue like a Smash Bros. Platformer-ish sort of Lethal League high octane style where instead of fighting the opponent directly, you're kind of fighting with well, in this case, the shuttlecock for badminton.
Hmm.
So we're kind of trying to breach into somewhere new and try something different. Trying to identify maybe a different gap in the market for something that might not even exist really.
Nice,
So
nice.
we're all excited for that.
Why did you decide to put together a studio? What was like a driving factor for you?
To be fair, for me personally,
Hmm.
I've always had like a massive creative streak, and I think going into indie is really kind of liberating for being able to make kind of exactly what you want.
Hmm.
Because you wake up every day and you kind of just you get on calls and you just like talking with a team and you just do whatever you want really. And I think as long as you've got that backing and the people maybe like a publisher behind you, um, you can kind of have that satisfaction of being able to make exactly what you want,
Hmm.
and it's yours. I think it's mainly that. I
Yeah.
think that is as well for the team members.
So it's like that sense of creative freedom.
Yeah, yeah,
How
for
do
me a bit
you,
more.
on like the contrary of that, there must be of course be like a pressure, right? That it's on you to get it done, right? That
Yeah,
must be a motivator as well, right?
yeah. I guess like say like if you are like say like a programmer in industry or something, you don't have that creative weight of God, this game's crap,
Yeah.
or God, you tried so hard, but it's all right. No, luckily, I think I've got some good confidence in this. I think we've got like a unique style that we're already getting feedback for, which is really positive. So I'm excited on that front.
Nice. So the team came together through university as well.
Yeah. Yeah, all through project game module stuff.
And why is it head empty?
I could give funny answers for this or not. So we were kind of like
Any?
brainstorming because we didn't really think of a team name to begin with,
Mhm.
but we kind of went through stuff that's because I know a lot of indie devs kind of some of them have really like kind of catchy names. Uh, and like sort of kind of had the mind of the logo as well with like the little chomp out of it, like the bit out of it and everything, kind of like something simple and something powerful, something that people can remember.
Yeah.
And so we just went like head empty and just took a chunk out like the icon and it's just kind of simple and effective, and that's what we went for.
Nice. Okay.
We all
Yeah.
kind of thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah. Straight to the point. Okay, I'll take us over to actually show off some screenshots of the game before we go into
Mhm.
the gameplay. But before I actually transition us, maybe you can tell us thus far, like coming together as a collective, as students, to make the project. What was like
Mm.
the biggest challenge for you guys, adapting from like sort of going from a brief to brief at university to now being like, okay, we actually need to put in this many hours to get this out the way and published.
Yeah, so it was a weird transition. So it's almost strange to go from uni as a project, something that you've kind of just been doing for grades, for a little bit, and then you push it onto a program where at the start you realize how serious it ends up becoming, and you're getting to contracts, you're responding to emails about stuff, and it's kind of becoming an IP, and
Hmm.
dealing with that was surprising, and that's actually been, I think, the biggest challenge. Because I'm team leader, so I mostly kind of deal with kind of everything, kind of wear a lot of hats, and having to get into the business side of it and understand that and get into the flow of that, of breaking out that kind of student mindset of this is a project
Hmm.
rather than this is going to sell money and break into a market. We want to take this seriously, and over the last couple of months that's definitely become our mindset, and we've learned a lot from that. Transfuser has been a big push that I know one for me,
Hmm.
I needed kind of, because
Yeah.
it's good and it feels very professional now. Been a great step in the right direction.
Hmm. So we actually got gameplay on instead of the screenshots. I thought it
Yeah.
might just be nicer to get the movement because your game is
Yeah.
really snappy and
Mhm.
it's really great to watch. I gotta say, it looks responsive, which I love about the games. Before we talk about the gameplay, though, few less questions about you as a studio. Are
Uh-huh.
you guys gonna be looking for a publisher? Do you want to make your own IP, publish it yourself? How are you looking at the industry now that you're in a position of creating, rather being that just a consumer and learning, now you are actually the creator.
Yeah. So after the Dundee pitch event, we sort of had a massive think in preparation, and our perspective changed a little bit. So we were thinking just like self-publishing,
Mhm.
um, but I think the benefits to having a publisher for us, like the things they can offer, market, and I think that gives us a lot more confidence. So I think for EGX, we plan to have like we're going to go as far as we possibly can for then. You can see from gameplay, looks pretty good right now. We're going to go as far as we can, get a vertical slice, and then we are going to use that. If we win the prize money, that's great. We'll use the 20k to fund us further,
Mhm.
and then we'll seek publishing to take it on probably till next year. Take it into like a serious, maybe like a 10-character cast on launch, and then go from there. Maybe with some DLCs and some exciting stuff comes after.
So what's the scope for EGX in terms of characters? Maybe you can tell us
Yeah.
about the characters. Why are you having different characters? Why? How is that gonna benefit per se the game?
So well, as is fighting game tradition, characters introduce. Well, they give. They're as is baseline. They are just a nice way to get variation between playstyles and change and play new things. It's also massively overlooked, but it's visually very important to like have different archetypes and different designs and characters that people can kind of engage with personally. Because when you look at a character and you think like maybe you like clowns or maybe you hate clowns, but bonkers on the screen, you might just think, oh my god, I want to play as a clown. That's so exciting. That's like the baseline, but also we're working to have all of these characters feel different. Don't know if anyone's played games like Guilty Gear and stuff like that, but we're very inspired by the variation and the interest and sort of the unique mechanics that having a different character in a game brings.
Right.
So here, the Bonkers she has two stances. One has a gun, and she can switch, and so she reload that gun. That's fast, and it's got range. And then she has a anti-gravity hammer, which she can smack, and it's a lot slower, but it's a lot more powerful and a lot more consistent to swing with. So that's kind of where we're going for the variation for this character, sort of like a more heavy brawling style. So this is just one character, like kind of doing like a mirror match right now, and then the next one coming up now, which we're currently working on as we speak, is Racket, which is like a mechanic. She can basically build up scrap and then spend it to like throw items and special effects and like fireworks and set off little inventions. So hopefully that'll bring some variety as well.
Yeah, it's just like a nice character. One of them ones that are just all over the place, and
Yep.
you press the buttons, things happen.
Yeah.
I have a big question from a game dev player's perspective as well. How are you looking to innovate so you kind of stand out from games like Lethal League, right? What is your game doing that will make me wanna opt into this? Let's say if I played Lethal League and I'm looking for a similar experience, why am I going for your game? Maybe you can tell us a bit about the USP. Sorry here.
Yeah, so for our like straight up USP, it is a badminton style game. So it's going to start using the rule sets from badminton rather than. So you can KO people like that, you saw in the video, but you can also, as is the current build, as is on the video right now, it's not showing it entirely, but the ground actually has a health bar and breaks. It's currently debugging, it's not entirely represented right now. But the USP for us specifically is the ground destruction. So you have to balance between defending yourself, hitting it back, returning it, but also making sure that the shuttle does not touch the ground, because it'll start to explode the ground, and then it'll fraction into pieces where you can fall into it. You see sometimes on the gameplay as well that the characters are kind of doing like a little jump, like a little bounce, like they're leaving like a clone behind and they're bouncing forward. That's actually a mechanic where they can kind of cancel out of things and use it to move around, bounce in different directions. So it's important that movement is used to the fullest as well for like the people that are going to get really good.
Yeah.
And they kind of got to play around not dying to falling in the hole, but also defending it and trying to actually KO the other player at the same time. So there's kind of a couple things going on. We're trying to make it as fluid as possible and really make that fun.
Yeah, great. I think I really like the aspect of the environment interaction aspect. I haven't noticed, and I find that really great. I personally feel like have you guys considered even expanding the scale of the arena per se, or are you keeping it quite slim so they are sort of forced to interact a lot in a quick?
Yeah, we've had some sort of ideas. We kind of want to go as far as we can because we've had this like exact scale of arena for a long time now in development. We kind of want to. We've been fearful of like breaking away from that, so I think the ground was like a solution. Although there's going to be planned plenty of extra modes, so like we've actually got mechanics currently in place for. It's not in like, as a mode right now, but you can actually have 2v2s. It's ridiculous, but
I can imagine.
Especially
so with that size of arena, yeah.
Yeah, if we want to expand the arena at some point, there's the systems allow that. But yeah, not currently.
I see.
But yeah, we're currently working with what we've got. We want to kind of just perfect exactly like what we have on screen.
Definitely,
Is the
definitely, it's
idea.
super important, especially as you said earlier. I think nailing the really simple mechanics, right? What makes your core movement feeling good, right? And this definitely looks like sort of a game that is easy to start with, but like hard to master. You know,
Yep.
which I'm a huge fan of. So, yeah. What was the most challenging aspect of the project throughout the development this far?
Probably for me balancing like the business side with the development, because we're already like
Okay.
pretty like we're all a little bit of established developers. We're all got our own talents and stuff, and we work together quite well. But the inclusion of, like I said before, Tranzfuser coming into it, and us having to consider the business and all the extra tasks that came on top of that, that's been definitely the biggest change, because you can't just let's go code the shuttle today, let's go change animations of the characters. It's like someone does that, but also someone could do contracts.
Yeah.
So for me, that's been the hardest part. As far as the gameplay goes, it's kind of just coming along steadily. It's actually changed quite dramatically from what you're seeing on screen right now. There's like a rock paper scissors mechanic now, so you see people are kind of stealing from each other. Like someone hits it with a hammer, and then someone else returns it with a hammer, and they kind of can steal it out of your hands almost. But now there's like certain moves counter other moves. So if you try if you try and strike someone's strike, it'll cancel each other out and it'll move you away. But if you like grab someone's kick, they'll get knocked out and stunned, and you can follow them up with a punish. So we're all kind of thinking about how to make that risk reward and stuff right interesting.
Nice.
Currently.
How are you looking to build your game? How are you looking to tailor it for EGX? Will there be an AI, or is it staying as a multiplayer experience?
So we've got some ideas. We're gonna probably keep it mainly at the stand. It'll just be like 1v1s, or if no one's there, I guess you can have a AI versus player. But I think we plan to have a convention build of the game, so that people are kind of forced into we do some AI matches, do some player matches, play with these limited amount of characters, and we'll have that already. But we're also planning to if we want to spice it up and maybe host a little mini tournament or something. We've got some fun plans for events during EGX.
That's great.
Yeah, to involve the players as well.
Awesome. Sounds great. I will be slowly finishing up. One last question that I have. If you have anything you want to share, we can do it right after. What's the biggest lesson you learned so far during your time at Tranzfuser?
Biggest single lesson?
Or like the most important to you, even.
Most important to me? Man. Probably kind of really seriously trying to manage and get a team working. Because it's 4 people, right? You wake up every day, you get on call, you develop. Sometimes there'll be crap days, people have bad days.
Yeah.
I think managing all the business stuff along with like developing, and also managing to have a happy team and people are enjoying developing rather than just sort of doing things. Everyone kind of gets excited. Like right now, we're designing a character, and that'll come later, and we're sort of just having fun designing their mechanics and kind of just balancing that. And and it's not something you usually get to do, but this has been a great opportunity to be able to do that and have fun as a team, and also open it up to business and be able to sell this thing.
Yeah.
Excited.
Yeah. No, I'm rooting for you guys. Definitely, I think you have a clear idea of what the project needs to be, and a clear idea what the scope will be at EGX. So I think it's a matter of just putting the head down and getting it sorted. And as you mentioned, you and many other teams that you guys will see over the next 2 Fridays, this Friday, next 2 Fridays, is these builds is like it's a progress showcase, right? So at EGX, you'll be able to see all these games in a completely new light, which I really look forward to. Okay. Do you have any shout outs, anything else you want to share?
Yeah.
Let's
follow
go.
us on Twitter. Team Head Empty. Hashtag team. Sorry, not hashtag Team Head Empty. / Team Head Empty. Don't know whether you have it
It's in
in
chat.
the
It's already in chat.
in the chat.
It's been in
There you
chat
go.
twice. Yeah.
Yep. Shout out to all the voice actors that might be watching this. That we tweeted out to. They're getting cast and they'll be in soon. So hello to all those people.
Nice.
Yeah. Can't wait to release this and have people playing and EGX.
Hey, okay, right, and on that we'll wrap up. So thank you so much, Daniel, for the chat. It was
Thank you so
great
much, Bartek.
to hear some insights of your game. We'll be back after a short breaks, just around 5-10 minutes, and we'll be back with Idiom Creations. So don't go anywhere, and if you go, just grab some snacks and come back. Chat to you soon. And we are back. We are back faster than ever. I'm here now with Steven from Idiom Creations. Introduce yourself and your team. Let's go.
Hello. Yeah, I'm Steven. I'm the project lead and level designer for Idiom Creations. We're a 4-man team, full of like creative minds behind Recollection.
Lovely. Perfect. So what is your project? Like, give us an elevator pitch. What we are to expect. We'll be showing some gameplay, of course.
Yeah. So it's basically a first-person exploration game, like puzzle game, that asks the player to control Will Green, is the character's name, and you're tasked with basically locating the answers to why your wife's missing anniversary present hasn't turned up yet. So whilst you explore, you'll be basically solving password protected puzzles like security questions on your laptop, which lets the player basically learn more about their character's past. So as you progress, you'll also come to like realization of the reason behind your mysterious predicament, without giving too much of the story away.
Yeah, keep it. Definitely keep. Let the players reveal it. Okay, that sounds great. You definitely are tackling an important topic, more, a bit more serious that the more gamified games. So, how did you decide to create a studio with the rest of your team? How did that
So
happen?
in university, when we had to do like group modules, we always found ourselves basically working together as a team. Just because the way we work together, it's really we flow really well. Once we're able to just work together to think of ideas, like we'd brainstorm a lot of ideas, and that's how we came up with Recollection itself. I think when one of us has a problem, another person is able to solve it, and we really just work together well, and just take into consideration our mental health as well during the process, which is good.
Awesome. Right. I'll just take us to the gameplay so people can have an idea of what we are looking at. So maybe now you can tell in more detail what players are to expect from the game and like the experience, right?
Yes. So we're basically you find yourself alone in your home, and you realize you have a journal, and your journal is basically your guide throughout the game. As you find more items that you interact with, it's not necessarily telling you where to go, but it's just making your mind flow to how you can explore your home. And you'll find yourself finding your laptop where you'll basically want to enter and get into access your wife's anniversary present. You're just curious on the process or the progress of it. But as you progress, you'll find items that trigger certain memories and flashbacks of your past, and really give you an understanding of just your character and who he was, and who his family is. And you're basically, one thing that we like to say is you traverse through the museum of his memories basically as you progress, and it really just we really want to intertwine narrative with the gameplay because the message of the game is just as important as the gameplay itself as well.
I see. Yeah, certainly. What was you mentioned earlier that you as a team, you have a certain way of flowing, always got each other's back. What was like so far the biggest maybe challenge you had to come together to really tackle as a team, as a studio?
So one thing with Recollection is we thought that we want to, with the release of UE5, like Unreal Engine 5, we wanted to challenge ourselves to make it with the new engine.
Mhm.
And one thing is, when it comes to coding inside UE5, it's a bit different. There's some things that you would go around, say for example, some of the blueprints, you'd do it a certain way, but they've altered basically how you do it in UE5. So I think what we like to do is have like frequent meetings, and whilst we go through the code, we'd all kind of just look into ways of overcoming this and basically solving the problems. If we have an issue, we sit there and we solve it, and we find ways around these problems basically.
I see. Yeah, that's great. I think it's really what you mentioned. I think it's a great lesson to anyone that really trying to come together to make a project. How important it is for the team to flow together, right? You kind of need to complete each other, and not in terms of just disciplines, but sometimes just like approach to work.
Yeah.
On the contrary of the most challenging aspects, what's the most fun part of the working on the project so far? What's the thing that makes you excited?
I think just seeing the process, like the progress of the game.
Mhm.
Like from what we had with in university, we had like an initial prototype of how it looked before, and just converting it to this much more polished product is just seeing our idea come to life. It's just really refreshing, and it's just it feels good every time we achieve a new milestone. It feels good just to really just take a second to appreciate that what we are doing is we're working hard and it's really paying out, really.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, definitely, especially when you have an idea that you really care for, and then to
Yeah.
see that it, yeah, you could just see it grow from a note on a piece of paper and to a
Mhm.
playable game. So that definitely must be a great feeling. Um,
Yeah.
how are you looking to expand the game in terms of the development? So it could be more technical, atmospheric, maybe shining more light on the theme that you are tackling.
Mhm. Um, One thing we really want to focus on is a lot of like the sound design. Really, that's our main focus now. Like we're happy with some of the mechanics, and from the video we've also we've progressed quite a lot. We've tackled some of the things we recently did play testing, and we're taking that information in from that. Um, but one thing we really want to tackle, especially leading up to EGX, is sound design, because we know that sound is just as important as the actual gameplay, and to really immerse the player in the experience, we want to have that sound to really draw them into the game as well.
Yeah. Was there a You have the sound. What about the visuals? What was the reason for going of just uh, like a realistic setting? Is that because of the theme you are tackling? You felt it was the most suitable, or is that something the artists on your team felt most comfortable with?
Yeah, I think that's we're going for quite a real topic, and
Yeah.
we didn't, with the topic of our game. Our goal isn't, we want to just make it feel as real as possible. It's
I
we
see.
One thing that we used, especially in like our pitch as well, is that we want to make it a cinematic, like an interactive movie, in a way.
Mhm.
Just to really, again, with the immersion, is just to bring the player in and make them actually feel like they are Will Green and playing as Will Green in the game.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fair enough. Um, have you had much play testing going on of your game? Like so far, I'm thinking more level design wise at the moment,
Mhm.
because it seems like most of the game happens in this house, right? So
Yeah.
without maybe revealing too much, do you feel like currently the level design is guiding the player? Is it meant to be a bit more like confusing for them, to immerse themselves? How did you tackle that aspect, of the topic?
So one of the main things that we really wanted to have is not to exactly tell the player where to go. A lot in the level we have a lot of interactables. So is in the prototype we first had the only objects that are interactable are the key story things, and it kind of took away from the idea of letting the player just kind of explore the house themselves. Whereas now they can pick up almost any item in the room, and it will give them like a brief description and just about the actual game, like about the item. Sorry, but there are also like a lot of the game is spent inside the house, but some objects that you pick up might trigger like a flashback, or it might create let the character think of something that happened in the past that will take you to another level.
I see.
But this will happen like later in the acts. Currently, this is Act 1 that we're fully focusing on for EGX, but this will be like there will be flashbacks to the past and all this stuff, different locations as well.
How many acts do you have in mind? Let's say if you are, would you be looking for a publisher actually, or would you be looking to self-publish this?
So we've thought about this, and we are open to having a publisher, especially if we were to take this to console as well.
Yeah.
But we are, as of right now, we're going to be self-publishing, especially onto like for PC. But yeah, we've thought about it, and we're going to go for 3 acts. So the first act is for EGX. We're going to try polish it as much as possible, so it gives the player an idea and like the start of the game. But we're going to go for 3 acts, and the narrative designer Matt, he's really working really hard and working really well to create this story, and we're bringing it to life.
Great, great to hear. So at EGX, the Act 1 is the key to kind of get the players started.
Yeah, it's to draw them in, basically.
To draw them in, yeah.
Yeah, we really want to make the player leave the game wanting more and just excited, I guess, for the release, and to really interest them in the game.
Yeah, no, it's a good way, because you are limiting your scope to a feasible demo per se, and it's a demo that has a continuity which makes them possibly craving more, like you said. So far throughout your EGX experience, what are the most important lessons you've learned? Whether it's with the development, working in a team, or even working as a studio, an upcoming studio.
I think for me, one thing that I always keep in mind, and we speak about it as a team, is really making sure that we balance work with our like normal day-to-day lives as well, because our core as a team is just to make sure that we're always positive mentally, and we never want to crunch or overwork ourselves, and we just want to make sure that we are still enjoying this process, and we have fun whilst doing it, but also reach our goals, because we never want it's not ideal for any member or we never want a member to be overworking or stressing too much about the project.
Yeah.
Which is, like I said earlier, we worked so well together, so we, as soon as we'll notice that, like if we notice someone might be seeming too stressed or anything like that, we'll bring it up, and we'll make sure if there's any way of doing so, we'll make sure that they are okay, because at the end of the day, that our mental health is just as important as well. So that's the main thing. It's just the balance between not overworking and also just making sure that we stay positive throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's spot on. It's really interesting to me to see how each team is unique in their own way. Like it's almost like you guys have like your specialties, and you are definitely mentioning a really important thing, that mental health is so crucial, because the more care you take care of yourself, the better your projects will be, and the company and everything with it. It will do well if you are doing well, right?
Exactly.
Right, we're gonna be slowly finishing up. If you have any shout outs or anything else you want to add, feel free. We still got at least 2 minutes, so.
One thing I want to say is on our Twitter in a couple of days we are going to be releasing the reveal trailer. So we've created a trailer. So keep an eye out on our Twitter at Idiom Studios. And another thing is just a shout out to the team. Really, we have myself, we have Matt, Jack, and Dylan. We're working really hard, and we really hope that everyone enjoys what we release. Yeah.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much, Stephen, for chatting with me today. It was great to hear about your game. I look
Thank
forward
you.
to seeing how far it comes at EGX. I'll definitely play it. And yeah, we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back with Skyline Studios next. Hey guys, welcome back. This is Bartek, your stream host for today. Still here, and we still have a few more teams. Just now, I have Scott with me from Skyline Studios. Hi, Scott.
Hi.
Would you like to introduce yourself and your team in a few words?
Yeah, my team Skyline Studio Games. We're university graduates from USW, and yeah, I'm the level designer for the team and also team leader and producer. We've got Jack who does all our programming. We've got one artist who takes care of all of our art from concept to modeling, and then Chelsea who handles community management and narrative and UI and user experience.
Lovely, that's great. You might be the first person who gave us a proper run through of the team, which I'm sure the team members will appreciate. So what is your project? What is when you came together as a team? What did you guys want to create, and what did you end up creating? I'll take us through to gameplay in a second.
Yeah, so it's funny actually. We had a prototype for a game that we was making last this year at the beginning of this year, where we had a technique called greebling for the level design. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
No.
It's like it's in sci-fi movies or like the buildings that look really like busy and stuff going on, like the Death Star sort of thing.
Okay.
There's just lots of little popping out parts. Anyway,
Mhm.
during playtesting, people started climbing the walls and trying to climb out of the map. And we found out, but it was actually really, really fun to try and climb. And so Escalar was born months later. Then when a couple of us decided we wanted to try our hand at Tranzfuser and make a game in which you just have to climb a tower.
Speaking of, okay, we'll get some gameplay on the screen. Yeah, and it's a great way to discover a good design, right? Rather than being like, really stuck on one idea. There is nothing wrong with adapting from it and learning. Hey, actually, just the climbing aspect of that game that we made. That is the most fun thing. Make a game based on it, right?
Yeah, I mean, all the evidence we needed that the game was fun was already there from the beginning because we were playtesting another game in which people weren't actually they were more interested in climbing out of the map, and so
Yeah.
we already knew the idea was pretty fun. Um, and what you're seeing here is just sort of us like giving the player as many mechanics and ways to climb and jump and sort of traverse as possible. We really do need to. Obviously, this is an early gameplay, but we need to just polish up the animations and stuff.
I
And
love the animation. Please keep it for
yeah,
the love of God. Please keep the animation.
yeah,
It's the funniest thing where it just
he
turns into a
flails his
noodle.
arms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but
It is.
yeah. Go on. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say it is. It's really funny. It's almost like really fun to the point where we don't want to fix it.
It feels like of course when you have like clipping of meshes, it's not ideal. You can see when it's the way it shouldn't be, but if it had physics enabled, it honestly is like a personality trait to the character, Maybe it's
Yeah,
like with climbing, you could adapt. Anyways, so how did when you guys came together through university and through the other project, why Escalar? And sort of maybe you can talk me through the theme as well, because you seem to have the game is beautiful, by the way, really well defined, like art direction from. Yeah, I think it's fairly clear, like what sort of style you guys are going for. So that's great. So maybe you can tell us how you got here.
Um, Yeah, it's probably not as exciting as maybe some people were hoping. Our artist sort of came up with something on a napkin while he was at a restaurant. He was like, "Oh, this could be a cool design," uh, and so we were like, "Yeah, that's pretty cool." And we just kept iterating and iterating, and we've posted some of that iteration on Twitter. Um, as we've gone along, and people can sort of walk through the process we've gone through with us, which has been really fun. But yeah, the art style, we just wanted something a little bit more bright and vibrant that was a little bit more distinct, and we've still got a long ways to go in terms of getting the final look that we want.
Hmm.
But right now, yeah, we're pretty happy with how it looks and how our textures have come out and the character models and everything like that. We're really happy.
Yeah, it's looking great. And to be honest, any any story of like the greatest designs, they come from napkins. It's it's usually the case. I'm not sure there is any League of Legends players in the chat, but if you know Timo, the character, that monstrosity came from a napkin. So there we go.
Did it
Anyways,
actually?
yeah.
Did
Anyways,
Timo actually come from it?
yeah. So what's been the most challenging aspect of the project so far? Because it seems large in scope, but you are also seem to be tackling it really well. I feel like maybe perhaps it's because you are utilizing recycling the assets and in a way where it makes the environment feel really busy, but it's working really well. So maybe you can tell us how you're tackling that.
Yeah, we knew it was going to be really difficult to produce a highly polished game in the time frame that we had. And we
Hmm.
have. We're just trying to produce a prototype, but yeah, we really controlled the scope and really kept it as tight as humanly possible. Recycling where we could, reusing textures,
Yeah.
instances of textures, things like that. Um, and it's a good thing too because the paperwork is running the business side of things has really bogged half the team down. So making sure that scope was really controlled and tight from the beginning was really important, just to make sure that we could sort of deliver on the promises that we'd made. But also with this game, we really want to make something that we didn't want to really push into uncharted territory too much. We wanted to stay
Hmm.
with something that we were familiar with, that we knew how to do. And so this game pushes the boundaries just enough to make progress into something that's really fun, but not so much that we could go into like a black hole of development. And trying to stave off that scope creep, where the scope just gradually gets bigger, has been a real challenge. Because everyone comes up with a cool idea. Wouldn't it be cool if we did this? Wouldn't it be cool if we did that? So just it's been really hard to stick to the scope.
Hmm.
But I'm glad we are sticking to the scope and we're being um, really stringent with that, because we're really on point and on schedule, I guess, and well under budget.
That's great. That's really good. So how do you what's your do you go through like a process of deciding what can make it into a game, what cannot, or do you have sort of a person you guys trust with a vision that they understand a scope, whether it's someone in production role, right, or how do you go about it?
So we use Trello, project management software,
Yeah.
where we'll basically scope out an entire project before we make it, and we'll assign everything a priority rating. We use Moscow, which a lot of people haven't heard of, but it's sort of must, should, and could. Um, so it's everything that we know needs to be in the game, and we'll go through each one of those tasks and sort of apply a time rating to it. So if we know it's going to be like 3 days, if it's more than 5 days, we put it into a lower tier of priority.
Okay.
And if it's sort of within 5 days, then it goes into the must pile. And that's for all core mechanics. So we kind of get a really good understanding of what what a task is going to amount to, rather than sort of jumping into the unknown and saying, "No, we kind of don't know how long this is going to be."
Hmm.
Um, and because we're really, like I said earlier, we're really sticking to ground we're familiar with and sort of techniques we already kind of know how to do. We're only pushing the boundaries of what's possible a little bit. And so we've all got a really good idea when we come to the table with an idea. we're really confident that we've scoped it out and we know how hard it's going to be to achieve. And so we have a good debate about what mechanics we're going to keep and what features we're going to drop. And that's how we sort of make sure that we stay on target.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think anyone struggling with that should take notes or clip it, save it. Yeah, I think that's a really smart way of going about it. I think
Perfect.
sometimes, of course, you need to have a vision and sort of like be able to say like, no, we cannot do a multiplayer sandbox for obvious reasons, right? But I think even with the core elements that you think need to be in the game, breaking that down and sort of seeing like, hey, what will take the longest, what do we really need to focus on, the game will not exist without it. And I think that's really smart. Yeah, good stuff. So from challenging to fun, what's the most fun aspect of the game for you, or for you as a team, as a collective, apart from climbing? Or is it still climbing places?
Oh, we like the climb, but we really my personal favorite is the explosive mechanics, destructible objects. Um, what we've what we've done in essence is rather than sort of make a finely scripted sort of on rails experience, we've sort of just thrown a bunch of tools into this sandbox that we can play around with, and
Hmm.
we, like we kind of know what's going to happen as you progress through the level, but realistically, anything could happen depending on what tools are available to the player at that time. We've got explosive vases that have different kinds of effects like freezing, um, and
Yeah,
fire and things like that, and poison. They can also have chain reactions, so you could blow up a vase
I
that blows
see.
up a door that collapses part of the tower. Um, and eventually, maybe we might have things like the fire if we have time in the cud pile. Maybe the fire can spread to like vegetation and wood and things like that. So we really want the mechanics to inspire the player through as they progress through the game, rather than sort of keeping them on rails. And that's been the really fun part for me, is just getting to play around with those really cool tools and mechanics and
Hmm.
seeing what I can do with them. It's been really fun.
I see. That's great. Well, you mentioned tools and mechanics. So is is there a way to classify your game? I suppose it's a adventure platformer, right? But I'm just looking at the combat. I don't think there were any enemies. Are you gonna be expanding in that direction, or is it more of a puzzle experience?
Yeah, so we kind of fit into a kind of a really niche, brand new emerging genre, I guess.
Nice.
Between yeah, between sort of precision platformers that have been like sort of newly emerging, like sort of Jump King and Getting Over It, and
Yeah.
then we're sort of bridging the gap between those games which are predominantly 2D, with games like Crash Bandicoot that are really hard platformers, but could be a little bit harder. Um,
Okay.
so we're really trying to exist between the borderline of um, precision platforming, basically, and casual platforming.
Nice.
So I guess 3D precision platform adventure puzzle game.
Keep it. Keep them tags coming. Great.
Yeah,
The more the merrier. Um, I was about to ask about any bugs, but I think the noodle hands, although not a bug, to me is the best unintended feature in the game currently.
yeah, yeah.
In terms of expanding in the game, what scope wise, what are you looking to tackle to EGX? To have the project ready for pitching, right? Where do you want it to be happy with it?
So we want to, in order to be happy with it, sorry, at EGX, we plan to sort of just polish up all of the movement mechanics,
Okay.
just so it really feels good, to jump around and to climb, and it feels as good as it looks. Right now, it looks a bit floaty, it looks a bit like sort of skatey on ice, and we want to just really make it satisfying to walk around in the game.
Yeah.
And that's sort of where we'll be happy for EGX, along with some. We're hoping to have at least two levels in. We might only have one, um, but in terms of sort of post EGX, we're hoping to expand the game further into having a hardcore mode where there are no checkpoints and you could basically lose a lot of progress from falling down the tower.
So like the good old games.
Yeah, like it was in the good days.
Yeah.
Where things were really challenging, really hard, and satisfying when you completed them.
Mhm.
And yeah, right now we're sort of at the base of the tower in a tutorial level. We're just sort of introducing the player to all the kind of tools and mechanics they're going to play around with.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, we've got a lot planned for the future of Escalar post EGX and pre EGX as well.
Nice. Okay. As we are gonna be finishing up slowly, maybe you can tell us the any tips that you would have given yourself before Transfuser. Now that you've done almost all of it, what did you learn?
Um, g- um, Probably get one person just entirely dedicated on the team to paperwork. Um, it's been really hard to sort of manage developing game while also being the drowning in paperwork guy.
Yeah.
And sort of managing marketing. Marketing's a monster to keep on top of. Pumping out content and editing videos takes up a lot of time, a lot more time than I thought.
Mhm.
And getting all that stuff out there as effectively as sort of brought our productivity down by about 50%. So just making sure you have a streamlined idea of you're going to upload twice a week, if that, and making sure that you've got all of your content ready to go on all platforms. Prep, figure out what the resolutions are for each. Like Instagram, for example, is a bit finicky with their resolutions and what they'll allow you to upload. Um, and hopefully, if you build a really streamlined pipeline, you can just develop, refine one, edit one video, and post it out to like TikTok, Instagram,
Yeah.
Twitter, and sort of take a lot of that time out that you can put back into the game. That would be my number one.
Yeah. Smart. Any shout outs you would like to give?
Yeah, check us out on Twitter, Skyline Studios, at Skyline Studios, I think.
Yeah.
It's bad that I don't know that. We're
I'll pop it in the
YouTube as
chat
well.
just now.
Yeah. And yeah.
Okay, right. Awesome. It was great to speak with you, Scott. Good luck with EGX. I look forward to seeing how the game progresses. And we'll go to a 5 minute break and we'll be back with another team. And the next up we'll have Schmoving Studios. Exciting. Okay, thank you, Scott. Take care.
Thank you.
Hi guys, welcome back. It's me, Bartek, your host, and I'm here with Peter from Schmoving Studios. Peter,
Yeah.
say hello.
Hey.
Awesome. So, what is your project? What is your team? What can we expect from gameplay, which we'll see in a second?
Well, our game is called Soulbound, which is a two-playered versus platformer where one player controls a ninja whilst the other player controls a ghost who can basically control the enemies trying to defeat you. Is like the main hook of it.
So it's like a level of Mario, but the other player gets to be all the monsters, and they kind of swap
Yeah.
in between.
Yeah, it's very much a what if we took your normal 2D platformer and then suddenly all the enemies are controlled by someone else?
Yeah, I'll actually jump right into the gameplay with this one because I found this when I had a peek at the project. I found the gameplay and the gameplay concept really intriguing.
Yeah.
So maybe you can tell us about the scoring system and how does one player win against the other? Because I think that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, the way the scoring system works is when you are the ninja, as you progress through this randomly generated level, you gain score, which is linked to how far you manage to travel. So while you're traveling as ninja, you're gaining score, whereas the ghost is able to control the enemies, and if they manage to defeat the ninja, as you'll see in the gameplay, the two players are coded as red and blue, is when the ninja is defeated, what will happen is they'll swap roles. So now the ghost and player 1 and player 2 have swapped roles, and now you're the ninja trying to gain points. Which, as you'll see in the gameplay, it's very much leads to a lot of back and forth of, oh, you know, the ghost is constantly swapping into enemies, and when you manage to defeat the ninja, you're constantly swapping back and forth, which makes this really nice gameplay flow to it.
Yeah, definitely. Is there an end, or do they endlessly just travel to the right side of the screen?
Yeah, right now there's a score limit of 500, so it's basically who can try and reach that number first.
Okay.
So it can get very tense towards the end when you're like just trying to get that last hit and sort of swap before they can win. It's quite fun.
Nice. Okay, let's take a break from the game for just a second, and maybe you can talk to us about how the team came together. You know, how did the Schmoving Studios became a thing?
Yeah, well, originally we made this game over a 6-week uni project, and then after we all graduated from Manchester Metropolitan doing studying computer games technology, we decided to because we got such good feedback on the game, and we thought it was a really good, had a really unique idea to it.
Yeah.
Of it's very simple to go, oh, it's a platform, but someone controls the enemies. That's very easy to understand and like a good hook. So from that, we've sort of just wanted to take it to Tranzfuser, and it's been going really well so far. Like looking back at the uni project, it's quite literally night and day. Just looking back at it.
What changed? Did you guys have to adapt your approach with development, or is it just more progress has been done?
It was mainly just everything all the bugs and little things that are wrong that you'd find in a couple-week game project, and making it something that you think feels proper professional and just feels inherently fun. Because a main thing we wanted is, as well as like the ninja, as you can see, it's very like fast and fluid. But we wanted to make sure that all these different enemy types that you control, you need to be able to, it has to have that pick up and play, where essentially you have like standardized movement buttons and then like an attack. So, you know, we have these demon head enemies that can shoot fireballs. You have these bombing crews that can drop bombs, and these frog enemies that can like jump in the air and do this big sword attack. So it's mainly just trying to add quite diverse enemies to make the Ghost just really fun and have this unique gameplay that's always changing up.
Yeah. So you mentioned fixing all them bugs to bring it to that professional level, right? Was there any bug that like really was a challenging thing for you to fix, or was it quite straightforward, just required time?
Yeah, I guess the biggest bugs we found very early on in development was just the bugs that came with the whole, oh, you're constantly swapping between like ninja, ghost, all these different enemies. But we've managed to iron all that out now, and we're really happy with how it's coming along.
Lovely. That's good. That's great. And in terms of scope-wise, because there is a variety of enemies that the players can control, right, as they are traveling through the level. How are you tackling that scope-wise? What are you aiming to have in a demo per se for EGX? How many enemies maybe?
So our plan is for EGX, we're going to have 8 enemies, which currently functionality-wise we have them all done by like the odd bug testing.
Yeah.
And with those 8 enemies, because a good thing we have with our project is because it's a 2D platforming style game, it's very scalable in the way that after EGX we're very easily planning to add like tons more enemy types.
Yeah.
It's very easy to do that. Now we've got the base functionality.
What about the game environment? Are you looking to switch that up so that affects the player movement, or will that remain as the core gameplay, so sort of like a vanilla and it's all about the enemies?
Yeah. Well, right now, the levels are made based around a ninja movement. So it's got, as you can see, these like small gaps the ninja can slide through. It's got these wall jumping sections. And an important thing with the level design is making it so not only can a ninja traverse them and feel fun, but all the enemies have to be able to sort of intercept them.
Certainly.
So you might notice things where like, oh, there's a wall jumping section, but there's a frog enemy at the top. So at least this sort of back and forth of, oh, do I go up there? Will the ghost try and intercept me, and that type of thing? But in terms of the level design, the main things we're doing right now is just visually and design-wise, just making them just more and more complex and interesting. So just adding more variety in terms of environments, just making them more vivid in general.
Good. Yeah, that's great. I mean, it sounds like you have a really great idea. What do you think? I'm curious myself. What do you think was the deciding factor, apart from removing the bugs, from taking this game from like a uni project to a
Yeah.
professional feeling game? What do you think to you makes that difference?
Well, I think the big moment of, oh, this game has real potential was we had a showcase event after our uni where we had like a few people in the Manchester area in the industry come down and test the game, as well as a lot of previous Tranzfuser entrants. And
Nice.
getting a lot of like positive feedback on that, going, oh, they really like the idea of the game, like the whole like unique mechanic, and that was like a really big realization of this game has potential, because it's with making a 2D platformer, the fact that it has such like a unique hook really makes it stand out from like a lot of the competition.
Yeah, certainly. So yeah, it's great to just double down on it. As that's the thing that's working for you guys, right?
Yeah.
We spoke about the expansion of the game. How about of the expansion of you guys as a team, as the studio? Are you looking to get a publisher? Will you be wanting to publish it just as a
Yeah.
team? Do you have maybe other titles in plan similar to this, or will you be continuing to expand this?
Well, our plan is right now, after we finish EGX, we're very open to getting a publisher, because we think that the funding and as well as the expertise in like marketing and the business side of a publisher would really help our team.
Yeah.
However, we're also open to the possibility of self-publishing, but because we got a lot of really useful feedback when we did the practice pitch event off a lot of the experts there, it was really useful for us. And the main features we'd want to add after Tranzfuser, because at the end of Tranzfuser, the game's going to be fully playable, but after that, what we're planning to do is we want to add, the big focus would be on adding online functionality, because that's a big point in terms of sellability of the game.
Definitely.
As well as adding additional modes. So right now it's obviously one ninja versus one ghost, but you can very easily picture it as like a mayhem mode where maybe there's 3 ghosts and 1 ninja, where you're all sort of fighting for that last hit so you can become the ninja. Or like a 2v2 mode where there's 2 ninjas and 2 ghosts. As well as, because of how scalable the project is, after Tranzfuser, we'll just be adding even more enemies with unique mechanics and just more varied terrain in general.
Nice, that sounds great. Yeah, it's really awesome because you have a project which is really scopable, but it's focusing on what's working on it, and
yeah,
spot on. What's the biggest lesson you think you've learned so far, whether it was studio wise or like in project development?
I guess the biggest thing I've learned so far is that I'd say it's the admin stuff and like the business side takes up a lot more time than you'd expect.
Yeah.
Because our team, we all studied computer games technology, and I have a bit of experience studying business and finance, but very much the business side in terms of like keeping up on all the marketing stuff and all the admin stuff takes up a lot more time than you'd expect. So it sort of makes it a bit of a treat when it's like, oh, I just get to do some drawing and just make some cool animations for the game.
Yeah, definitely. If you were to give yourself a tip before, if you could go back before you guys started at the Tranzfuser process, what do you think? Would you have done anything different? Is there something you feel like, okay, maybe I should have prioritized that over the other features?
I'd say the main thing is just have more. I'd say probably it would be have just more marketing materials ready at the start before, like ready just to go, rather than having to make them on the spot and then. Because we've been consistently uploading stuff to like our team's Twitter and TikTok and whatnot, just to sort of get the word of the game out there. Because right now we're very much just focusing on, once we have the game to the high quality standard that we want, then after that we can focus on more of the marketing and just getting it out there type of thing.
I see. Cool. Yeah, that's great. I think you have a really clear idea of where you're headed with the project. This is your opportunity to maybe say anything else you want about the game, shine some more light on it, or any shout outs you would like to give to anyone?
I'd say first of all, shout out to my team: Sam, Harry, Casper, Paul. We're all smashing it. And other than that, I'd say we have followers on Twitter, Schmovin Studios, and we also have a TikTok, which is Soulbound Game Official. And other than that, we should be having the Steam page up this coming week. So once that's up, we'll be tweeting about that and make sure to wishlist a game.
Very nice. Okay, awesome. Right, Peter, it was a pleasure to speak with you, and I look forward to
Yeah.
seeing how the game progresses towards the EGX. Okay, we'll go
Yeah,
on to a
cheers.
short break, and then we'll have a member of Team Dink speaking with us. Okay, talk to you guys soon. Hi guys, welcome back. I have brought with me yet another developer from another amazing team from Tranzfuser. This time I have Lewis from Dink. Okay, would
Yeah.
you like to introduce
Hi.
yourself and your team?
Yeah. So I'm Lewis. I'm the designer over at the Dink team. We're representing Teesside University and the Launchpad program. Yeah. Yeah.
Lovely, perfect. So, what is your project? You can give us an elevator pitch before we show any gameplay. What are you
Sure.
creating?
So we're making Dutch Maximus out of the toy box. It's a fast-paced first-person parkour platformer where you play as an action figure, and you're sort of just running around these life-size environments, but you yourself are only like 5 inches tall. So it's a new perspective on the genre, quite literally, I think. You know.
Very nice. I'll actually just take us into the gameplay because I think that's the best way
Yeah.
of showcasing what's going to be happening. So you went with first person for the game. Uh,
Yeah.
is there a reason for it?
Mostly because uh, I myself, I'm a fan of games like Mirror's Edge and
Yeah.
Ghost Runner,
Hmm.
other games in that sort of genre. And just when I first started messing about with the first-person prototype pack in Unreal and stuff, that was like the first thing that came to my mind. But I never actually knew how to make it when I first started learning like game dev. And so when it came to my final year project at uni, I was like, oh, I finally know how to make this. So we got to make something, like that.
That's great. Yeah. So it's sort of like just making what you love to play, sort of like merging all the titles you might have experienced. That's great. Um, so is that pretty much the reason why you decided to create a studio, just to make things happen that you want to play?
Not necessarily, like
Okay.
mostly, but it started with I kept working on this game after university because I didn't want to let my skills go rusty when I was looking for employment and stuff.
Yeah.
In the industry. And then two of the other members of the team, they approached me and said, "Hey, we want to make an indie studio. How would you feel about us coming on and helping you with what you're doing and stuff, and we make it into a whole thing?" And I was just like, "Yeah, I'm in," because I'd always wanted to do like an indie sort of thing, like, but I figured I wouldn't be able to do it properly on my own. You know what I mean? So having like other people around me who also want to get in that industry and stuff really that was like the spark there, so yeah, all it took was getting approached like that. And yeah.
Yeah, really nice. I mean, that's quite a. So you've been found by other students who wanted to make a studio, and then just turned out that your concept was really
Yeah,
appealing.
it was something they were into. As soon as they saw the gameplay and they saw like, oh, like the white box, they're like, oh, we want to turn this into something beautiful, and that's what they're working on right now. I know what the footage is mostly white box. In fact,
Yeah,
it's all white box, I believe. But we have an art version of the build which we haven't merged yet, which is, in my opinion, looking great. I'm really happy with the sort of stuff those guys are doing. They kind of undersell themselves a bit, but I'll pick them up for them. I think their stuff looks great. We have some screenshots we sent. I don't know if they're available, but yeah,
it might be just gameplay, but I gotta say there was a train scene showing, and
oh,
it's great looking with the subtle screen shakes, and the sort
mhm.
of like the tunnel environment that you are in. Yeah, the game the game is exciting, just even as a white box. What I'm curious about though is how you're tackling, because there is elements of grappling about, right?
Yeah.
Um, is the player able to grapple onto something on a button press, or do they always have to look there? How precise do they have to be?
Currently, it's you use the grapple to key sort of points. Right now, it's mostly just drones like enemies. It actually functions similar to the homing attack in the Sonic 3D games, where
Yeah.
you sort of dash to the enemy. It's that kind of thing. So right now, it's limited to zones, like points. You can grapple to points we place in the environment, but there's nothing in the level that uses that currently. It's just the enemies currently.
Hmm.
But yeah.
I see. Um, Great. I really like the momentum you've managed to create, the sense of momentum right in the game, especially with the such large environment. Pun
Mhm.
intended, I suppose, because the player is small. What has been the most challenging aspect of working on this ever since you had people come on? What has been for you like the moment where you went like, okay, this can be amazing, but this thing needs work?
Mm. Actually, what you mentioned was getting that feeling of momentum because when we first started, you really felt that scale of like, oh, you're toy, you're very small, and that came with it the thing of, oh, I feel like I'm not moving very far or
Mhm.
very fast because everything else literally dwarfed you and it made you feel so insignificant in a not very good way. So it took a lot of like, working with the camera, working with what people are able to make in the environment and stuff to make it feel a lot less like, oh, I'm small and I'm not moving very far, to I'm small and I'm moving really fast for my size. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Um, that was definitely the biggest issue we faced, but I think we've tackled that quite well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was good to definitely consider it early on because it's such a core part of the gameplay. It would seem, especially you mentioned earlier titles such as Mirror's Edge, which they thrive on the momentum, and keeping that speed, and moving
Yeah.
with it. So definitely, it's great that you and your team managed to encapsulate that feeling. What would you say is the most fun in the project at the moment for you?
Mm.
Could be even like a part of the level, perhaps, because I love the moment where the trays come on the screen. I'm the biggest fan of that. I think that's the most immersive kind of like it's a nice sensation. Also, they still feel like toys. I'm not sure how other people might see it, but I think because the way how simplistic they are, you can kind of get a sense that they are toys.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think my personal favorite thing is the grapple. That feels very satisfying to chain together. I think because we give the player like a little bounce after they connect with the drone, and it also launches you a little bit in the direction you're sort of facing.
Hmm.
So that feeling of going like boing 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 from point to point
Yeah,
is really quite satisfying. That's my personal favorite thing. I spent a long time messing around with that in our sort of sandbox where we test all of the features. It's yeah,
that's a
personally
good
my
sign.
favorite.
That's how you explore the fun features of the game. You go
Mhm.
into the engine testing one thing, but you end up doing the other thing for 5 minutes, and you realize, hey, that's kind of
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, you can't
um,
help it though, what's the point?
yeah. Have you encountered any game-breaking bugs thus far, or has it been just implement fix, kind of quite nice flowing?
Nothing like in this current build. Earlier on in the game's development, we had an issue that prompted us to change how the grapple works. It used to be more of a freeform thing.
Hmm.
Um, but if you had two like sort of assets overlapping with each other for whatever reason, and you used the grapple on it, you would ping off into orbit, like in the Skyrim bug with the giants, for example, you would just
Yeah.
fly off into the air. And that prompted us to completely redesign the grapple aspect of the game.
Hmm.
Um, really, we had to start with a new level from the ground up that utilizes this new type of grapple instead of the old one. Yeah, yeah.
I want to ask you about the target market, the audience you're looking into, because
Mhm.
a clear target market to me would definitely consider would be like people who are into speedrunning games. Is that something you are thinking about when designing the levels or the mechanics of the game?
Oh yeah, absolutely. when we first had this game playable from like start to finish, we gave it to some of our friends, and they immediately started competing with each other to try and get the fastest time, and seeing how much they could break it and just really push the game to its pace and see how
Yeah.
quickly they can get that level done. So we knew straight away that yeah, no, this is people are going to want speed run. So we have definitely took that in mind. We have a leaderboard we're working on. We'd love to have online leaderboards in the like full release of the game. Where you can and ghosts that you can like in racing games you have
Yeah,
back
yeah, that would be
stuff where you can
interesting.
race other people's ghosts. I think that would be a great addition. So that's why we're considering like publishers if we can get someone that could do network features like that. That would be great. Yeah.
I see. So is a publisher like a definitive based on what you just said? That's something you're aiming for?
It's not what we're aiming for. We are
Hmm.
confident that like without a publisher we could still deliver on this product just
I see.
fine. But we want if we can make a good product, we want a publisher that we can make it great. We know what this sort of I guess IP we're developing is capable of, what it can do, and a publisher's probably the best way to go about that.
I see. Great. So what are you hoping to achieve with the game for the EGX build? Maybe you can give like a tease what players might expect.
hmm You're going to be able to play the level you see on screen now from start to finish. It might be a little bit longer by then. No promises, admittedly. But we're going to have a leaderboard. You're going to be able to show up and play the game, and we'll be tracking the fastest times throughout the day. Possibly with prizes for the fastest times of that day. If you come by the booth sort of thing, we might have a little something for you. We want to promote a sort of semi-competitive atmosphere with you and
Hmm.
your friends at the booth.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. See who's
Um,
fastest.
we're gonna be just slowly wrapping up. Um, I ask this of everyone. What's the biggest lesson you've learned throughout the transfuser?
Mm. Um, I think personally, my big take was not to be afraid of what I'm doing. Like the whole business side of being an indie game studio, something that was very daunting at first, but like
Hmm.
uh, the transfuse has definitely helped quell any worries I'd had about that sort of thing. It's really helped me like come into my own and not be afraid of that side of things. And I've found that it's something that I've actually taken to quite well. Me and the other guys on the team. It's a part that we've actually came to quite enjoy. Having our little meetings and stuff. It's all uh, you know been one helpful and two fun. Like it's yeah.
Great. Perfect. Speaking of teammates, you can give any shout outs just now if you would like.
Yeah, sure. No, no, I don't know. I don't want to embarrass them, but thanks to everyone on the team for everything they've been doing. I'm really looking forward to seeing, how everything comes together. Because right now, obviously, we've shown you just the white box, but we're looking forward to being able to show you guys as well how everything comes together at the event. Um,
That's the beauty of
it's
it.
coming
Is
along.
the
It's coming along nicely.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
proud
the
of it.
it's the progress showcase. You guys will get to see how far the teams have come at the GX, right? Okay, thank you so much, Lewis. It was a pleasure
Thank
to
you.
speak with you, and I look forward to playing your game. And we're gonna go on to a quick break. And last but not least, we'll have Joe Bite, another great team from Transfuser. So speak to you guys soon. Hi guys, I'm back. Bartek, your host, and with me I have SOE, one of the members of the Joe Bite team. Hello and welcome.
Hello.
So you can maybe introduce yourself and your team.
Wait, hi, I'm Esso. That's what I go by online. And my
Okay,
team is Joe By with launch test. And we making launch test.
very nice.
Yeah.
You've been in touch with Transfuser actually much earlier through Jamfuser, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken. Were
we
you
did.
part of that project as well?
Yeah, so I and another friend we started Joe By to create a game called Acquisition.
Hmm.
And we did pretty well. And Transfusion came third overall. So we thought might as well try again
Yeah,
and make something like complete.
sounds great.
Yeah.
Perfect.
hmm
So, how did you get any more people onto the project to push it through, or did you stick through as the same team?
So everyone except me is new on Joe Biden. So the person I started with had to sadly drop out because of contract stuff.
Okay.
And then I found some people I also went to uni with who I known since I started uni basically. And then they're also quite skilled and talented. So we thought we'll be able to make a good game together.
Yeah. Awesome. That's perfect.
Mhm.
So was going for a studio always a plan, or did it like was it like after the jump fuser you felt like okay maybe we can do it?
Excuse to go for studio with Joe Biden specifically or in
No,
general for me.
overall, did you always want to create a
Yeah,
studio, or was it because of the like the jump fuser experience you've kind of felt like you can do it, you know?
I always had a dream of making my own game, so I
Nice.
think Transfuser definitely gave me a bit more confidence in thinking that I can make something people enjoy. So
Mhm.
that was helpful in that sense. But the plan was always to eventually make my own studio. I just didn't know the exact path yet.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Hmm.
Transfuser is definitely helpful with that.
Yeah,
I'll take us through to the gameplay, and you can maybe tell us more
yeah.
about it. How did this project become a thing? Because for people that don't
Mm.
know, Joe Byte during Jump Fuser, you guys created a 2D game, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly. Yeah, it was a top-down 2D
Hmm.
game, and now you're transitioning onto 3D. Maybe you can tell us how that has been working out the whole process.
Um, I, conceptually, it's not that difficult to make 3D games compared to 2D games. In Jam Fusion, we're using Unity engine,
Hmm.
and now we're using Unreal Engine, and that's just set up for 3D. So just naturally we end up using 3D and art.
Yeah,
Also, our artist is a 3D artist now and not a 2D artist. So also that was a natural transition. And we
yeah,
also thought that we can that's a lot more we can do a lot more stuff in 3D and make a more striking game and even like rapid prototyping through like low poly assets
yeah,
would be easier to do in 3D. And also, if we did do 2D, we'll do all the animation. And we realized during our old game, which was very animate, a lot of animations because we had many different characters with like big animation attacks. So doing that forward now would be a very big time consuming. So we decided that reduces use as few animations as possible because none of us are actually animators, and then try and go with this low poly art style and then use animation where we have to rather than having to use it for the entire game.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
what about the theme of the game? How did you transition into why
Uh,
this sort of arcadey rocket game?
so I think this game kind of like I made this for like prototype doing uni, one of my
Okay.
modules, and the idea was just to make a very simple game where you fire a rocket and then smash things. I saw a GIF on Twitter like many years ago, maybe 2 years ago, by the guy who made Taps, where he was making a little rocket game where you control a rocket. I was like,
Hmm.
oh, that'll be fun to make a game where you can play as a rocket, and then that's where it just snowballed from there.
Great. Cool.
Hmm.
Just like with the previous game we've had on, just making what you've seen and what you enjoy as well. So
Yeah.
that's cool. Um. So what are we looking at in terms of gameplay in the game? What do you reckon is like the most fun aspect for you about your project?
So, actually controlling rockets really feels really good. This footage is a little bit old, so
Hmm.
you can't really see that well. But like, we spent a lot of time getting the feel of the thruster working well, and like even just moving the rocket around and like screen check. It just feels good to play that part of the game.
Yeah.
And then now we need to make everything around it to support that core gameplay. That was another thing we wanted to make sure we had a really tight core game concept and loop. So everything we make is just extra that enforces that game loop
Yeah.
rather than having to make a lot of different systems and make them show every single system is connected to have a game. We have a game to begin with, and then we just make the game better with every new addition.
Yeah. It definitely allows you to scope
Hmm.
in more
Yeah.
like I was gonna say freedom, but what I mean is that your scope can be expanded without worrying
Hmm.
that you are losing out on a core feature because your core feature is set, and you're just adding stuff that will make it more fun, like you said.
feel like you just read our documentation notes because we literally said that. Because
I
like that,
studied game dev. Maybe it's
yeah,
just
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. Because that was because when I've done a lot of game jams and also doing Jam Future, you always gonna end up descoping,
Yeah.
and we wanted to make sure we can make a game that we can descope without losing the core feel. This is what I
Yeah.
think why I like making roguelikes, because you usually like communicate the game loop quite very easily,
Mhm.
very quickly, and then if you increase the scope, it just adds to that core game loop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Great. And how has the development been for you? Has it been straightforward, or did you run into like any walls of bugs which were just odd?
It's funny you say that because right now, my game on build right now just keeps crashing for no reason. So,
Okay, so
yeah,
you're in the midst of it, right
yeah,
here, right now. Nice.
and, and it's like I just changed, like I just added one line of code, and now it's been like weird for some reason.
One too many.
Yeah. Um, Obviously, some things go really well and
Yeah.
falls into place really easily, and some things just seem to break for no reason. And we also using Unreal Engine 5, but that's just like some experimental issues, and the like we're using chaos system, and
Mhm.
that has some features that aren't it's not well documented in general. It's not documented in general.
Yeah,
And then there's some things that aren't as intuitive, and some things it just doesn't work like you expect them to, or they didn't have very specific niche scenarios that can be useful. So it's like a learning curve, but I'm quite confident that we can always like find a solution to the problem. At least that's what happened so far.
that's good. That's great.
Hmm.
So you would say as a team you complete each other when it comes to like
Hmm.
figuring the
Yeah,
issues out. Yeah.
that's probably one of our strengths. Is we are all so I we all did some degree of game design in our degree. We all graduated this year as well. So we have many hats. Like I'm more of a programmer and this general designer, while my friend Flynn, who's also he's also a programmer but more technical designer as well.
Hmm.
So he has like he bridges that gap very well, while I usually more one or the other. And also our artist Fia is also a designer, so she can also bring input where we need it. And if I need someone to do, like I do sound design, for example, which I'm not my special, but
Hmm.
it's something I can do if I have to. Fia did voice acting for one of the characters in the game, even though she never done voice acting before. So we we can wear many hats, and that's one of the strengths of our team, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think sometimes you have to, especially as a smaller studio, right?
Hmm.
We've heard a lot about like the business side of things, taking away from the development today. How is your team sort of managing that?
So we have actually a roadmap kind of laid out. We
Hmm.
would ideally not be bound by a publisher. We do want like funding and grants, and that might lead us in the publisher direction.
I
But
see.
right now, from like Transfusion, we're not bound by you. We have like some requirements to get our funding if we win, but we don't. You're not like you don't go to a percentage of a game or like give us a specific art direction deadline. And then we also have access to some grants. We're trying to get grants as well rather than publishers. And then later on, once we have a more complete game, that's when we might think about having publishers, because then we can be more firm in our direction of the game and not being pulled one side or the other side.
I see. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's smart to consider that as well, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
it's always good to have someone propel the project forward, but you have to
Mm-hmm.
be and be aware that is that the direction you want to go at the moment.
Yeah.
Like what's more important to you, right? So
Mm-hmm.
definitely important to consider.
Yeah.
As we are coming to the end of our chat, so I'm just gonna ask you about your experience at Transfuser, your lessons so far. Um, Kind of what's the biggest thing you learned, and maybe you can tell us also, I forgot to ask, about EGX. What are you looking for to showcasing, maybe what do you want to how is your what does your ideal showcase look like?
I think one thing we are very wary of from the beginning is like not spending, and then now comes to August, because we're like, oh, we gotta save our money. We don't want to like spend too much too early. Then
Yeah.
we still have almost all our money left. We're like,
Right.
we might as well. We are getting our next round of funding like next month, so might as well just start getting the assets we can't afford. We haven't gotten yet.
Yeah.
Music. So that's one thing because we are used to be individual or like poor students. So we haven't even like transitioned to thinking it's a business that oh yeah we don't if we can't do this ourselves we can outsource it. And
Exactly.
sometimes that like £100 you spend on a piece of art or some music that's gonna pay back like if it's a really nice key art that's gonna market your game and are gonna sell itself later. So
Yep.
they'll pay you back in the long round instead of you spending 50 man hours doing it yourself and then not even getting that same quality.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I started thinking more about, like not necessarily spending more, but spending smarter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a good one. Yeah.
Mhm. And for EGX, we are looking forward to. We are right now for EGX, which we're trying to get a repolished demo that
Mhm.
showcases our game in its full. Even though it might only be one level, but it's going to be hopefully as polished as possible. Where it's like, okay, I know what this game is about, and this is either for me and it's not for me. So people don't go because it's better to have a really good reaction from someone or really negative reaction to someone than just being indifferent because then you
Yeah.
get forgotten about.
Hmm.
Yeah. So we want to leave someone an
Interesting.
impact. Hmm.
Yeah. Make some impact, right?
Yeah.
Because that also gives you as a developer
Mm,
some direction as well.
yeah.
Because it's
If someone's in,
yeah,
yeah,
you
if
get an
someone's
idea.
indifferent, hmm if someone's indifferent, we can't know what's to make better. If
Yeah.
someone hates our game, we can figure out why they hate our game. If someone really likes our game, figure out why they like our game, and we can
Yeah.
move in a direction from there.
Yeah. I think that's
Yeah.
a really nice way to think about it because um you shouldn't get discouraged if someone doesn't like something because I feel like with
Hmm.
games it can be so subjective, right?
Hmm.
Unless there is like uh really really enormous titles, they bring people
Yeah.
just because they have already a large audience.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think it's a really wise way to think about it. Do you have
Hmm.
any shout outs you would like to give before we finish up?
Well, obviously our team. So it's me, we got Flynn and Fia. Flynn is our programmer and designer. Fia is our artist and designer, and also voice actor now. We got our Twitter is the most active one. We got a TikTok and YouTube channel as well.
Mhm.
We try and put out. We have like a dev cycle of 4 weeks, and and the fourth week is when we usually do all content rounds, and then that's gonna last us the next round. So we should be doing that actually right now, but we kind of trying to crunch a little bit to get stuff ready for next week when we're gonna start recording a trailer and stuff.
Nice, exciting.
Yeah,
Okay, right. Look forward to it. I look forward to EJX as well.
yeah.
Thank you so much for the chat, SOE. And that was all the teams. We'll go into a short break, but I'll be right back with some news and some reminder when the next stream is. Chat
Thank
to you
you
guys
very
soon.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm back. Okay, so that's all. That's all of the teams from Tranzfuser 2022 for today. We are having another live stream next Friday and Friday after that. So stack up on snacks and drinks for then. You have plenty of time to do that. Yeah, I'll be chatting to more of the teams and we'll be seeing more of their in-game development and seeing how they are progressing. And then hopefully at EGX you'll get to see the final product of their efforts. Speaking of EGX, Transfuser will be at EGX in London this year, so be sure to visit. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a great afternoon, and yeah, all the best. Bye bye.